Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Um, I'm excited about today's project. We are very close, like a day away from 4th of July, which is always a magical time. Fireworks are popping, and we see bright colors. And I think the idea, which, by the way, this pattern was designed by Danielle Wicks, who's an incredible designer, human being, came up with this amazing project. Wanted to kind of take all those different colors into inspiration and put it into a bracelet. And so I'm really excited to teach this. It's a fabulous project using some macrame, which I love dabbling in the different types of crafting that is out there for jewelry making. And to combine macrame with 3 needle, beautiful match made in heaven. Now, let me show you what this project looks like. It is stunning. And we're going to work on a very unusual closure using the macrame style, of course, and a large button. What's great about this project, too, is that you can mix up the colors. And if you are not wanting to do fireworks or all the colors, you could definitely do a seaside theme and, use blues and golds, or you could do a forest theme and use greens and browns. There's all kinds of ways to go about it. There's just endless possibilities, really. So I'm going to pan down to my work table, and we are just going to get right into it with the tools. So let me grab the things that I need. We are going to need our chain nose pliers, which look like this. Weber's brand, one of my favorite companies. I've also got a pair of round nose pliers. I've got cutters from Lindstrom. And while I don't have a thread burner actually on hand, I used to have one, and then I think it kind of caved out. So I was like, I'm just going to toss that one. And I haven't had one since then. Also, I don't macrame a whole lot. So anytime I get an excuse to macrame, I'm just in heaven. Having said all that, I'm just going to use Loctite glue, which is right here. And I'm sure you guys have a jewelry glue that you're happy with using and works perfectly fine. Thread burner is ideal for this particular type of cord because it's a nylon cord that I'm going to show you what it is here in a second. But it can be glued together too, so that's kind of a lovely option. All right, let's talk about necklace and earring materials. Although I guess we're not really making earrings, so that's probably a little bit of a stretch there. But we will need our SilverSilk. So this is 3 needle chain in several different colors. Now, I had talked about switching up the color combination to create a whole different look. While this still sort of sits in the realm of fireworks because fireworks come in all colors, I might go for like a slightly beachy theme today because I'm stuck in some hot weather and I need to cool off. And the best way to do that for me is mentally. So I'm gonna do a whole seaside theme and feel so excited about it. So here I've got champagne gold, I've got peridot, I've got seafoam, and I've got amber, which just work beautifully together. You'll need 22 inches total for your bracelet. Now, this will create a length of 11 inches around your wrist, but you can, of course, cut down on the amount of length of 3 needle chain, just depending on your wrist size. You can do this closer toward the end and trim away any extra pieces because we're going to be working essentially from top to bottom for this bracelet. So there won't be really any guesswork. It'll just be a matter of working on a specific section of the bracelet and then moving down within the actual bracelet to then adjust for the length of your desired bracelet. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside. I've got a jump ring, which looks like this, just a 6mm, pretty standard jump ring. And then I've got a button with a shank, and I'm really bouncing off the gold here, but check out this button. It is delicious. Sadly, I don't have any in stock. This is a check glass button, and I believe they're vintage buttons. There are quite a few resources that do have buttons available like this. And so you can always check out the video description or just hit me up with an email, orders@silversilkonline.com, and I'm more than happy to point you to some of these resources that you can grab beads from. But that color palette is just too good to not use together, right? So I'm going to be using that button, and it must have a shank in order for this to work. And you must have a jump ring as well, because passing the chain through the shank, you won't get as much chain through it, sadly, because that shank is quite small. All right, so what else do we need? We need nylon knotting cord, which looks like this. This is a 0.5 millimeter in size, or 0.5, and you will need a total of 120 inches. So while I can't convert for the life of me, I know that this is going to be done in sections. So what I would recommend doing is cutting a 2-foot length for, and again, let's go back to the visual example. In fact, I can show you. I've got a visual example here of the actual colors. We'll be using this in sections. So we'll have about 2 feet here, probably about 2 feet here, give or take. And then you'll also need some for this bottom part, which is probably going to be closer to about 4 feet, 2 to 4, like 3 to 4 feet, we'll say, because we're going to be using this to also create our loop for the button to go through. And so we'll need a little extra cording for that. So let's work with, so far, a 2-foot spool, whoops, for that top part. And we'll just kind of cut as necessary. Okay. Eyeball. I like to add a little sprinkle, a little extra onto the measurement just in case. And I'm using a contrasting color cord, by the way. So you could go with really a number of different cords, depending on what your color choices are, and go as far as like light contrast or dark contrast, depending on your taste. So I wanted high contrast personally for this project. And then finally, some beads and charms or baubles or what have you for that center piece. Now let me hold up that design example again, because we are going to be using that for the center part of our bracelet. You can embellish this if you want to. A design option is to leave off that embellishment altogether and just use the chains and the colors freely. It is 3 needle, which means that if you can find bead holes that are big enough to slip through or string onto the 3 needle chain, then you can leave them free floating. For example, large hole pearls are great. You can use check glass beads, seed beads. However much you want to add pizzazz to it, that is totally up to you. Let's just say. So let's move on to our steps. All right, step 1. We are going to be attaching our button, which I have here, and our jump ring together. So I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to open up that jump ring. You can slide in all of your 3 needle chain at the same time as your button. And you can either close it with your fingers, or if you've got a very tight spot, use both of your pliers to just close that back up. Oh no, I missed a chain. Let's just open that back up and do that again. Okay. But, oh, I missed 2 chains. Good Lord. It's like all the colors just kind of blend together. You could always just string it through too. You don't have to open up the jump ring every single time. There we go. Perfection. So step 1 is done. Look at that. We're already on a roll. Okay, step 2. All right, we are going to grab a scrap piece of that nylon thread, that nylon cord, and we're going to secure it to our table. You can either use a foam core board, or you can tape it directly to your table. It just depends on whatever your comfort level is. For me, I'm going to go with my work table, and that way I can kind of move it around and show you guys as I'm working on the process here. There we go. And I've dropped my cords off to the side of the table. All right. So you can use some tape. Sadly, I don't have the washi tape. I'm just going to use my duct tape or scotch tape, I guess I should say. Um, Ideally, you probably want something with like in the realm of masking tape or something that doesn't have a sticky adhesive that's going to adhere onto the chains. The scotch tape seems to work pretty good only because I'm going to be removing it very quickly after I demonstrate how the knotting works. But the idea is just to hold it onto the table or work surface that you have. That way you can keep all of your strands nice and organized. All right, and then now we get to macrame. So I'm going to grab my 2 feet cord of knotting thread, and I'm going to pass it underneath my chains. Once I've done that, I'm going to create a figure 4 and pass my left-hand side over the chains and use the right-hand side to go over the knotting cord and through the chains. You almost have to make like a diagonal move and then pass it through. Okay, these are called square knots, and we're going to make a series of 8 of them. Now, I started my figure 4 on the left side, so now I just switch places. And how you know that is that you're going to look for this little knot each time you make your knot. It's more like a bump. You're going to be looking for the bump each time you make your knot. So I'm going to start on my right-hand side now, make that figure 4. Okay, go up through the chains and that figure 4, which is, I guess, on its right side there. And then you simply squeeze all that good stuff together. And now you could see that the bump is on the left-hand side. So we basically just rinse and repeat. Figure 4, go up there. How many of us are thinking like summer camp vibes for this? That's sort of like where macrame comes for me. Okay. And you can kind of just get on a rhythm after you sort of configure and learn this knot. There are plenty of resources online out there for how to make square knots or do macrame. So I encourage you guys, if you are not understanding this particular lesson, to seek out those particular resources. Okay, and this will just bundle up your chains quite nicely. And I believe I was on number 3 or 4, and then this is number 5. And we'll keep going here. 6. And then I think I need 2 more. The thing with this is it doesn't require a whole lot of thread, which is great, but it doesn't require a whole lot of space. The idea is just to bundle it there at the top. You can actually go longer if you want to. I would not go shorter than 8 stitches or 8 square knots, however you want to call it. I'm going to do a couple more, I think, just for added security. And then the idea is just to add the glue at the end. Or if you've got a thread burner, by all means, use that. You can see that these are lining up quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to do one more. There we go. And I'm going to trim these down, but I'm not going to cut them all the way off. The reason for that is that because I don't have my thread burner, I'm going to just apply the glue. And I'm going to make sure that everything is just sort of secured before I move on to the next step. And I have allowed enough time for that glue to dry. Okay, so a little dab goes a long way. And I usually like to go under the stitch that I've just made. Perfection. So I can kind of undo this. If you've got a longer board, then you can certainly, just move the board up. And I'm going to go about halfway down into my bracelet. So probably about right there. And I'm going to do another bundle here, but I'm going to show you guys how to add on that extra little something. So I'm actually going to skip in my, let's see. I'm going to skip in my tutorial because we're going to go straight into the middle section, which is adding on our beads. So I'm a little bit out of order, but that's all right. Again, because we're just working from top to bottom. Plus, if you really are unsure of how you want the measurement of your bracelet to be, it's kind of nice to just have it all completed all the way to the bottom. That way we can just cut everything off at the end. Okay, same business here. We're just going to create a series of about 4 square knots before we add in our special baubles and things. So just create another square knot. Move that up just ever so slightly. And you can see that my bump is on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to make sure that I start from there. And go ahead and create 4 individual stitches here. So that's 2, here's 3, here's 4, perfect. Okay, just gonna scooch that little bead down. And then now you can string on your charms and baubles. Just like that. And the idea is to go ahead and stitch that into your macrame. It might get in the way, so just kind of gently move it and keep it out of the way, but otherwise it should just integrate quite nicely into your design. Now you could go crazy and add in baubles during every stitch, but that might be a bit overkill, I think. So probably keeping it to just the 1 might be enough. 1, 2, 3. And 4. Okay, there we go. All right, same idea here. We're just going to kind of add a little bit of glue. Or if you've got your thread burner, now's the time to use it to just trim down and go ahead and apply the thread burning process. Someone told me, I think, to use a lighter on this, and I was like, I don't know if I want to use a lighter on the show. That could go really wrong. So I'm just going to do it the safe way and use glue. You never know. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to just trim these off. I'll trim it off very, very close later on once I know that the glue is dry. Okay, so let's talk about the end here, because we're going to just go ahead and move down into our bracelet. And I'm going to apply the tape again. Okay, we'll just move all this up. So we are going to be working now about right over here. And I'm just going to grab another 2 feet, well, actually a little bit longer, almost a 3-foot spool of knotting cord. And I'm going to start my stitch work again. So we're going to be creating, and let's go back to our steps because we will need to be about right here. You could go with the 70-inch length cord. I don't know if it requires that much now that I'm really thinking. Oh, it probably does, actually, because you do have to do quite a bit of knots on each side. Um, for the purposes of the video, I've used a shorter length, but same principle here. We're going to create a series of about 4 to 6 stitches. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3. I love how instant this is. I mean, talk about quick gratification, instant gratification. You could already see this bracelet coming together quite easily, and it's like taking no time at all and very few materials. Okay, there's 4. I'm going to do 6. 5 and 6. And the idea here is to split the chains, which is what we're about to do, and to start creating hitch knots. Let's see if I can do this pretty evenly here. You might have to like unbraid a little bit of the chains to get it really separated. But otherwise, it should work out quite nicely. There. Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to kind of not squeeze, I guess, pull those chains out a little bit so that they're separated. And now it's time for our hitch knots. So this is where, hopefully I can get this right. I haven't really practiced the hitch knots. You make a figure 4, and you're just going underneath the chains and over, and you sort of pull it tight, or as closely as you can to the actual bundle of chains there. And then you basically kind of make a figure 4 on the other side. Let me see here, because now I'm going to cheat and use the graphics, by the way, which you can find over on silversilkonline.com. There's a comprehensive set of instructions in the SilverSilk education tab, and from there you can actually find the illustrations on how to properly make those knots. So we are going to basically do a figure 4, and you're going to take the thread underneath this time and then over the chain. There we go. Okay, whew. Crisis averted. We're going to do this several more times, just mostly so I can get practice. Figure 4, thread over, and then pull, making sure that the knots are staying together. Another figure 4, but you're going to go underneath the chain and then loop through. Okay, I think I got this. Seems to be working quite well. It's one of those things that if I can do this, I know and have full confidence that you guys can. Okay, figure 4. I'm making sure that my thread is above the chains. Go under the chains and through the loop. Figure 4. You're going to go under the chains and through the loop. Okay, and I've been pushing with my fingernail against that knot just so that it'll tighten up and bundle together better. And the idea for the other side is exactly the same, but you're just reversing the side of the 4. So we were doing it where the 4 pointed out. actually kind of look like a sail now that I think about it, like a sailboat. And if I'm going with the beach theme, the sailboat's a great idea. But anyway, I digress. So this time I am using a figure four, and this way you would start with the thread on top and then pull it. Okay, same thing, thread on bottom, pull it through. There we go. Thread on top, pull it. This is like so easy, you guys. I'm surprised. I just looked at the graphs actually just now because I couldn't remember the exact order of steps for making the half hitch knots, and this is unbelievably easy. Okay, I'm gonna untape that and bring it to you guys real up close. Look at that. Amazing. So the idea here is to get a length that is equivalent to the button that you're trying to pull through. So I'd imagine for what was this, a 20 millimeter button, like you would probably need about an inch of macrame to really like seal the deal. So let me show you guys the step out that Miss Danielle Wicks has provided us. And you could see that this is about maybe an inch and a quarter of knotting. And we're basically at the end of it because all we're doing at the end is wrapping all the stuff back up into a bundle. So you have these two individual strands that we're going to just macrame together since they've been separated, like as such. And you want to make sure that your knots end on the same stitch. You don't want them staggered. So you can see that both of these knots are exactly looking very similar to each other. And so all you do is then, which we've completed step 6, step 7 is just to bring it all together. So you'll just simply macrame a regular square knot. And mind you, all this stuff would normally be taped down, but since we're basically at the end here, I feel like it's kind of easy to put all this stuff together. You will just create your first square knot. Okay, switch sides, create your figure 4. And bring it together, just like that. I think I could do this up close, in fact. Okay, so there's that. We'll bring this up. And I believe the idea is to create probably about the same as your other sides. So between 4 and 6 stitches should be plenty. There's the middle charms that you guys can see. I'll hold my example up as well. And you guys can see the different colorways that we've come up with together. I'm going to go ahead and complete this bracelet though. So there's that. We'll do another set here. One, and maybe just one more for good measure. Perfection. So now I would just trim this short, apply a little bit of glue or thread burn if you've got one of those. And this is the perfect clasp for my button to pop right through. Amazing. So again, here is that actual firework design. And here is the sample that I've worked on, which, by the way, these are probably dry, so I can actually trim these off now. Oh my gosh, I absolutely dig this. Such a beautiful colorway. And I carry 26 different colors of 3-needle chain. And so the amount of combinations that you can come up with is just unreal. So I have yet to finish this, and I will. But really, I just wanted to demonstrate for you guys like the coolness of how this bracelet works. So once you get to the end, you'll notice that you have a bunch of these little extra bits or lengths of wire left over the chain. You can either cut this off pretty close to make it tassely, or you could leave it long like this and just kind of have it, floating out there as part of the bracelet design. That's totally up to you guys. Where we put the button in the clasp, that's like the last part of the measurement. And so something to also consider is if you start with the clasp ends first, kind of like the order of the actual instructions, and not worry about the middle until you're done and ready to add in that after measuring. That's also another option that you can definitely explore. But I just love how this works. And even with the cord ends here, if I applied a little bit of glue, I could always add some beads onto this cord and just kind of do a little like square knot at the end as part of an embellishment. I mean, that's one way that I could add more beads to this. Just doing a little like square knot with a bead there. So there's just so many different options with this bracelet, which is why I love it so much. Anyway, I am going to turn my camera back around. I will finish my bracelet design and post it into the SilverSilk Silkies Facebook group. This is a dedicated group of amazing creative people that enjoy using SilverSilk, and it is such a joy to see what they create, and it inspires me to continue creating and continue to bring the magic to SilverSilk as much as I can for you guys. And you can find other inspiration over on my Instagram, which is at SilverSilk and more. Tons of photos there and some instructions on how to create some of these wonderful designs. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's very healthy for the channel if you enjoy the content and enjoy seeing it and want to see more of it. You can also give this video a giant thumbs up and leave a comment if you are enjoying this project and want to create it yourself, or just to say hello. All right. I will see you guys at the next tutorial. Thank you so much for tuning in and take care. Bye.